Hello, and welcome to the video lecture. This week is about understanding multimodal projects like P3. We'll review the following during this lecture to include potential platforms and second team meeting expectations for your group. Unlike how I described in the last video lecture, the P3 presentation you're creating with your group should include 3 points that any new member of your chosen discourse community can understand that will help them join the community to realize this is what it's for. In P1, you described the rhetoric surrounding discourse communities. Then for P2, you described how it works in the sense of differing elements or specific modes of communication for a discourse community. Now you're describing what's it for based on the premise that this multimodal resource, aka presentation, will be accessed by new members of the community who don't know anything about the community. You are their tour guide. P3 and multimodal. Multimodal projects are assignments that incorporate various modes of communication. They're used to promote creativity, critical thinking. They enhance the effectiveness of communication. P3 is about creating a multimodal resource for the new members of your group's chosen discourse community. And now that you've overviewed the basics of discourse communities, your peers want you to create that resource in the form of a multimodal presentation. Multimodal elements include written text, images, audio, video. That means you and your group have a lot of options in terms of the resource that you ultimately create together, as we discussed in the last video lecture. You can create the P3 multimodal resource presentation that is for new members of the discourse community, and you're describing what it's for using various platforms like what you see on the screen. Depending on the type of discourse community, you're going to decide which platform is going to best suit your audience and discourse community expectations. However, PowerPoint is not an option for any group. Other platforms are available, and I want you to push your creativity without going crazy. Your second team meeting. So the meeting date and time should be set by someone on the team, and it should take place this week. It doesn't have to be a face-to-face or even Zoom meeting. I've completed group projects by checking in with my teammates weekly via a group text. We decided on the same day and time to check in with each other and see what's happening, again, without spamming or being annoying or name calling. Perhaps this sort of approach works best for you and your team too. However, avoiding any sort of weekly communication for a group based on experience, both in group projects myself and teaching this course and other courses that have a group component, it's going to result in a less than appealing P3 final product. Reach out every week in some way with your group. During the second team meeting, you should have an informal agenda. This is going to help you maximize your time to use it wisely and discuss these sorts of items that you see on the screen for P3, like choosing a platform, reviewing the P3 project description. That's at the boxed in the middle of the screen. Follow this basic template to create your P3 resource presentation. And then based on the basic template, integrate these ideas of having an intro and conclusion and whatnot with your group outline. And then start making a list of all the other distinct parts of your resource presentation, what it needs. However many details you input into your presentation is going to dictate how long it is. And if the presentation is overly long, you're going to risk losing your audience interest. But if it's too brief, you risk confusing your audience or leave them wanting more. So find a balance of how much detail and research you're going to use for your presentation. Create a task list. You can also call it a work list, and delegate parts of the P3 project to each team member. Everyone should have at least 2 or 3 items, depending on how many people is in your group. Decide on who's going to create each part, and on the screen, you'll see sample parts of the presentation that you could delegate amongst your teammates. So there's so many samples in the modules, and I suggest viewing these to get ideas for your own project. The assignments for week 13, let's review them. They're both individual, which should give you some relief. The password for this week is on the screen, and if you include it in the assignment for week 13 that asks for it, you could earn extra credit points. It has to be the correct password or you're not going to get the points. And it has to be the assignment that is asking for the password. So the first assignment for week 13 is very low stakes, only worth 5 points, and it's a multimodal rhetorical analysis. The point of the assignment is for you to review an exemplar multimodal resource you find on the internet and then conduct a pad analysis. It's going to give you more ideas that you can shape for your own multimodal resource. It's an individual assignment that you can submit without any group input. If you don't submit it, it's not going to reflect badly on your team. They're not going to know unless you tell them. I'm not going to tell them. It's just going to impact your own grade if you don't submit it. The second assignment is also an individual assignment. However, this assignment could be strengthened if you and your group come to a consensus on who's going to draft which part of P3, because in order to complete the draft a section of the P3 project, it's going to help you to know which parts you are assigned specifically. So let's talk more about this. For instance, say you're assigned the conclusion, maybe a visual or the abstract, if you guys are using abstracts. Now you have an idea of what you could create to finish this draft a section of the P3 project. Choose one of the group assigned sections and draft the text and include possible images to accompany it. For any images, use copyright-free ones from sites like Wiki Commons, Pixabay. You might know of other similar sites, and these work too, but avoid using images from just a straight Google search, which might impact a YouTube upload due to copyright infringement. And also, university policy just frowns upon you using copyrighted images that then get posted into Canvas assignments. If the section you're drafting for the assignment requires research, add the proper in-text citations and source information for that part that you're drafting. You do not need group approval to submit this assignment. If no one in your group responds or has a meeting to discuss, which is worst case scenario, but it might happen, just review the group outline that you submitted last week and choose a section on your own that you can draft so you can complete the Sunday assignment. Like other P3 assignments, late submissions will not be graded per the language in the syllabus. That's it for this week. I know it feels like you might have to finish every part of P3 right now, but if you consider the steps that I've outlined during the lecture, you're already completing a lot of it together. We're taking P3 one step at a time, and each smaller assignment's building to that larger draft and then on to the final version. Reach out with questions, and until next time.